Let's talk about the Bond Literary Agency, because I always like to provide this opportunity for literary agents to, of all the wonderful agencies that exist in the world, what does the Bond Literary Agency have to offer? What can we look forward to experiencing when we sign with you?
So we're a small agency. We are located here in Colorado. Sandra Bond started the agency. I should know this, but I don't. Not right off the top of my brain. I will. Somebody calls it buffering. Anyway, so Sandra started the agency by herself, and then I joined the agency as an assistant at the end of 2014. We now have a third agent, Pat, and I think between the three of us, we cover most of the genre bases. There's a little bit of overlap between what Sandra and I do. There's a little bit of overlap between what Pat and I do. But Sandra doesn't represent science fiction, for example. I love science fiction. Pat does science fiction. So we at the moment, we have occasionally had interns, and as part of that intern's learning process, we have had them read queries. But generally, we do not have assistants or interns or anybody like that working on any of our projects. All three of us work on our own clients' projects. If you have a question, you're talking directly to us. Oh, I had a thought just now, and it just went away. I remember what it was. So, funny story. One of Sandra's clients is a publishing attorney. This is one of the things you get from Bond Literary Agency, not a publishing attorney, but the story I'm about to tell. She would do how to understand your contract talks at conferences. And I was lucky enough to sit in on one of her talks. I love her. She's fantastic, this person. So I sat in on one of her talks, and she told the audience, she was like, look, I do this for a living. I do not vet my own contracts. She was like, my agent vets and negotiates my contracts. She was like, and my agent is more strict about my contracts than I would be. So you get that working with Bond Literary Agency. More strict on contracts than a publishing attorney. Yeah, I mean, I think it's the attention. It's the certainly because Pat and I are both associate agents, we're also drawing on and learning from Sandra's experience. And so we have support there as well, which means, you know, if I'm going out with a project to an editor that I haven't worked with before, but Sandra has worked with, you know, I get to draw on that. Yeah, it's we're small, but we're hyper focused, and we put a lot of care and attention into our clients and our clients' work. And yeah.
So I'm going to get a whole lot more personal attention going with you guys than I would a mega house in New York, I assume.
Maybe. I mean, I can't say how every agency works. I do know that hopefully whatever agency you end up working with, you have that experience. You know that if you have a question, your agent is going to take the time to answer it. You know that they're going to get back to you in a timely manner. You know that they're going to take all of your questions seriously. You know, coming from my background working at a publishing company, one of the first things that I tell every single one of my clients is, you know, if you have any questions about your contract at all, ask me. I know everybody sort of has that feeling like, oh, this is just a dumb question. I'm just not even going to ask. I don't ever want my clients to do that. I don't care if you think it's a dumb question. I want you to understand your contract, and I want you to be comfortable with this relationship. So, you know, again, hopefully whatever agency you work with, you have that confidence in the person that you're working with. Yeah.
And I love that you guys aren't in New York. Regular esteemed audience members know that I'm a huge advocate for decentralizing publishing. More that's going to increase our diversity. That's going to increase of all kinds. That's going to get a lot more voices in that can afford to live elsewhere. And like, hey, maybe a house instead of a studio apartment. How nice would that be?
Yeah.
What are the advantages of being in Colorado versus New York, and how are you still making sure that you're establishing personal relationships with editors and folks that have no choice but to be in New York?
So oddly enough, like I said, I did not know this when I moved here, but I have learned since being here, there's a pretty strong hub of writing community here in Colorado. So there are a lot of really great writers groups. There's I know I'm gonna miss somebody, so I'm not purposely leaving anybody out, but there's Lighthouse writers, there's Rocky Mountain Fiction writers, there's Pikes Peak, there's Northern Colorado writers, there's just so many great resources out here for writers to begin with. We're not the only agency here. There are actually a few agencies here, and there are some agents who work remote from some other agencies here. So believe it or not, Colorado seems to be a little bit of a publishing hub. And I don't know how much of that has to do with the Publishing Institute, but I do know, for example, one of the other big agencies here in town, at least two of the people there are former DPI alumni. So, having gone to it and loved the program and recommending the program to people, maybe it is one of the reasons. That we also have a pretty strong community of independent bookstores, which is really nice. So yeah, so there's a lot of support. There's a lot of things already going on here. There are also some publishers out here, which is really nice. And we're seeing that spread happening already. There are already publishers, like you said, decentralizing from New York. There's Sourcebooks in just outside of Chicago, I think it is. And there's all kinds of new presses popping up all over the place. So by no means is the industry as central to New York as it was, say, like in the 80s. Plus, with the internet and Zoom and everything else, it's a whole lot easier not to be in New York. That said, I did mention that I did go out to New York in January of last year, and I had the chance to meet with a number of editors, most of them at Le Pan Quotidien, of which there are numerous locations in New York. But yeah, so and I have in the past gone to Book Expo America and scheduled editor meetings around that. And then on top of that, it's paying attention to things like manuscript wish lists and editors who are actively putting out there what they're looking for. Because in the same way that hopefully as an author, you've done your research and you're not pitching me your erotic romance or memoir, neither of which I represent, I, as an agent, am not going out to editors, with a horror novel who hate horror. So, so it is, I don't necessarily have the opportunity to go out for drinks with editors on the regular or have lunch with editors on the regular. But I would say that 2020 has shown that not a whole lot of people are able to do that anyway right now. And there are ways to still get that interaction and still make sure that you are fostering those relationships with those editors without being right there in New York City and paying for their drinks. And conferences are nice too. Going to conferences, which hopefully we'll be doing in person again soon, are a great opportunity to meet editors and other people within the industry, even other agents,
StokerCon's going to be in your backyard next year. Yes. So hopefully we'll get to chat again and actually in person this time. Yeah. And I'll buy coffee. It'll be a nice time.